TGT. What the world is watching.
Yeah, all right, listen, last you saw me and Pyrez were talking shit. I am here to announce to you that I watched the Tennessee Titans take one on the chin in Foxborough this past weekend, as they should have, because they were, the Patriots are playing the third-string Tennessee Titans offense. But that's what happens. But today, we are in Royal Rumble season. I'm excited, and we've got a new to AFS Jon Alba with us, and we're going to watch Royal Rumble in 1998 and get to know this guy. So, with that being said, as I always say, away we go. Hey, everybody. How are we? Jon, it's such a pleasure to meet you. How the hell are you, buddy?
I'm well. I really appreciate you guys having me on. I really enjoyed seeing that little girl eat ice cream as it was all over her face. That was definitely the standout moment of that little intro.
I got to tell you something, because I'm an accountant. I'm a neat freak. I'm organized. And when my daughter was that age, if she had crap on her face like that, the first thing I did was bring a napkin and wipe it off her face. So every time I see that damn scene, I just want to clean her up.
It's amateur hour there. That's not cool at all. I mean, you can tell I'm someone who's very prim and proper. I like to have the hair always in check. I'm sorry about that, Phil, but it's very important that I have it in check, and I can't deal with slop everywhere. It's just not my game.
Yeah, no. When Eric Bischoff first saw that open, he wanted to know which one of us had the Ferrari. That's just stock footage, everyone. Just so you know. Let's go around. We'll go around the room real quick, and then we're gonna start Royal Rumble 1998. So, Phil, buddy, how you doing?
Well, I mean, you weren't here when I recorded last. No, you were. So you do know my colon is thoroughly cleansed.
Oh, Jesus.
That's still going quite well. Everything's beautiful on my end. How are the anal ailments of yours, sir? Are they okay?
Well, I'm having kidney stone issues, as everybody knows. So that's
this took a turn real quick.
Yeah, we've got work things going and we got shoot things going. The kidney stones, a shoot. All the colon talk, because we're potty humor, is a work.
Don't lie.
Anyway, so let's go over to what we coined as the lookalike to John Wayne Gacy. Did somebody really say that?
I'm going to ask you not to say that again, because that's just not funny.
No, it's not funny. Henry, you don't look like him. You look like a wonderful shaven individual, which I don't believe I've ever seen you without facial hair. Ever.
I think we did once. We agreed that this wasn't a good look and that I shouldn't do it again. But it got too hard to maintain. And it'll grow back.
All right.
I'm still young enough that it all grows back.
Okay.
Unlike Phil.
Right.
I'm fine with that.
Michael McLanahan, the czar of questions. I took that from why am I drawing a blank? Rajiv. What an ass I am. Mike, how you doing, bud?
I'm doing fantastic. Just here last couple days on vacation, heading back to work Monday, and tonight we're not one-on-one, but it looks like we've got a six-pack challenge to discuss Royal Rumble 1998. So this is going to be fun.
Can we have a championship scramble match instead of a six-pack challenge?
Oh, God.
I missed the scramble match. I wish I would have done more of those.
what's funny is Brandy, while in Alaska, spent the last weekend up and through Thursday out here in Rhode Island, watching the Titans get their asses handed to them. So, hon, how are you?
Oh, I'm good. I'm glad to be home. I mean, obviously, it was a lot of fun hanging out. Went to my first ever NFL game, and of course, we won. So it was wonderful.
You were at Gillette Stadium?
Yeah.
Yes.
I've covered many games at Gillette, and it's a very cool venue to catch a game in. They start with AC/DC, which AC/DC is the only undefeated team in the history of sports because they're played at every single sporting event. So therefore, they are undefeated. They're my favorite band of all time. So Gillette Stadium gets a thumbs up for me.
Yep. It is a cool place to watch games, but as a Tennessee Titans fan, John, every time I go there, they get their asses kicked.
I was at the playoff game that they lost there a few years ago, and that was not ideal for you.
Yeah, no, that was the year they were 9-7. They shocked the Chiefs, and then they went over. Yes, it is top football theater, and then they went on to the Patriots. I think they lost 35-7 in that game. Every time I've been there, John, the last time I was there before this, because I had such a bad taste in my mouth, I refused to go. But I was at 59-0, and so when we got to the stadium Sunday and it started to snow, I was having some really bad flashbacks. But we're going to everyone go to Peacock. And we're going to start with the Royal Rumble match. And Phil, correct me if I'm wrong, but our time code here is 1 hour, 9 minutes, 19 seconds.
It is season 11, episode 1. That is the stupidest numerical system for wrestling of all time. But season 11, episode 1, the Royal Rumble, 1 hour, 9 minutes, 20 seconds. You'll see Mike Tyson's smiling face.
I don't know, Phil.
I don't know that I'd call that a smile. It kind of creeps me out a little.
Guys, hang on a second. My sound went wonky, so I can't hear anybody. Here we go. There you go. Can you hear me okay?
We got
Yep, I can hear you.
No.
What?
It's Mike. I love my computer, but every time something plays through my wireless headset, the sound, it's crazy. So, John, do you want to do the honors? And wow, he does have a wonky look on his face. Do you want to do the countdown for us?
Sure. Do we do 3, 2, 1, go, or is it 3, 2, 1, click? Like how's the
3, 2, 1, play? Whatever.
3, 2, 1, play. Okay. All right, everyone. We're ready to watch one of the pivotal matches of my pro wrestling fandom, the 1998 Royal Rumble. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, play.
Can I get a time check?
Get out of here. So, yep, there's Shane sitting with I mean, I'm gonna tell you this, John, I'm a huge, and everyone will know it, and Phil, do not put the damn picture up. I am a huge Shawn Michaels fan, so obviously this is the event Shawn messed his back up,
yes,
and what would lead to him having to leave for a while, but
Frank,
this culminates.
I don't mean to interrupt, but you did say something about a Shawn Michaels picture, and it jogged my memory. Something I found for you, and I want to give you the exclusive. I found this at one of the vendor booths at Anime NYC last week while I was out live on location looking for a challenger for this. Couldn't find anybody. That was loud when I set it down. But as soon as I can figure out what to package this in so I can send it to you, it's all yours.
Oh, you're amazing. That's why we love Henry, because he does stuff like that. But
and hold on, I actually have the guy's card here. Not that I imagine he's going to watch us, but the guy's name is Kyle Horn. He can be found on both Facebook and Instagram. He's a local artist from New York City. I got one of this, I got one of Bret Hart, and I got one of Sting that I spilled coffee on the way up the stairs this afternoon. That's drying out.
Wait, did you throw hot coffee on Sting? Did you do an Eric Bischoff, sir?
I went to get coffee this afternoon.
Whole pot
and
of
the
coffee?
nice lady that was in front of me in the drive-thru at Dunkin' Donuts bought my coffee. But the lady inside didn't put one of those little plastic things that they put over the mouth hole. And I didn't notice that till I got halfway up the stairs and I'm leaking coffee on my hand.
Oh, boy.
Well, you know why he threw coffee on Sting. Sting didn't have a tan.
That's right. You had to burn him up a little bit.
If you could only see his face, what does it matter if he has a tan?
So John, why did you pick Rumble 98? I mean, obviously it's probably the hottest time ever in wrestling, but I'd like your take on it.
Yeah, so I was just really starting to get into wrestling around this time. I talked about it in my one-on-one with Paulie B, where he did this little introductory thing where Bad Blood 97, when Kane debuts, that's like the first real experience with pro wrestling I have. So I'm like starting to get into it at this point. I'm like 4 or 5 years old. And I just so distinctly remember this show. For some reason, it stands out for me. And this match in particular, the Royal Rumble match, is just a lot of fun. It's not all pretty. There's some sloppiness to it, but I think that's kind of the charm. And then these two right here, Mick Foley and Chainsaw Charlie, also known as Terry Funk, are part of the reason for that. They make this really fun. So this is the three faces of Foley Rumble. And it's a big night for The Rock too, and Austin. You know, this is kind of their first real test here as they're being positioned for future main event runs.
Wow.
First question for you, John, if you don't mind, kind of piggybacking off of that, saying it's a big night for Rock and Austin. Do you think it was a mistake not to have the Rumble be the last match of the show? Because unless I'm wrong, I believe there's going to be the Michaels Undertaker casket match is going to follow this with the finish where Kane sets the casket on fire. So do you think on this night the Rumble should have main evented?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think if you remember to keep things in perspective here, the Kane Undertaker storyline was the hottest storyline in the company.
I agree.
It was hotter than even with Austin going after McMahon and Mike Tyson. That was super hot, but like this is the start of the Mike Tyson thing, so that hasn't really taken off yet. Right now, at this point, Kane and Undertaker is what is being featured most and has the most intrigue. So look how great Terry Funk is here. I mean, I hate the chair shots to the head, but just the selling, and now he's asking for one. He wants it, and then because they're two chivalrous, hardcore gentlemen, Mick Foley's going to say, "No, you hit me instead."
Yeah,
it's amazing to think that in 2 weeks on Monday Night Raw, these two are going to be in a match against the Road Dogg and Billy Gunn, and they get put in a dumpster, and that dumpster gets pushed off the edge of the stage. Mm-hmm. And then at the end of the show, they come back from the hospital and proceed to beat the ever-loving crap out of both of them. It's like these two don't have an off switch.
I love Mick and Terry.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard not to. I mean, I totally agree with you on the chair shots. Like, it's hard to watch those now with everything that we know with CTE, and it's just really hard to watch. But oh my God, is that Salvatore Sincere
or Brandy?
Yeah, Brandy.
That's right.
Hey, so we do have a Twitter question here for you, John.
Let's hear it.
I want to get this popped up here. So, at Paulie B, you all ask,
no.
I've barely been clinging on to my job as Conrad's understudy, but since your arrival, I've been fearful of my job. What can I do to keep you from sending me to the unemployment line?
Sorry, Paul, budget cuts.
Maybe if he gets future endeavored, he can come join us.
Don't worry.
Listen.
Don't worry, Paulie. You can always go host Brooklyn Brawler Zooms.
Oh!
If Paul wants to go win an Emmy, he can go do that, and then we can have a conversation. All right, Paul?
There it is. There it is.
Hey, I'm up for Emmy number 2 next weekend, a week from tonight, actually. So we'll see. And in that case, I'm going full Owen Hart with all you guys there. So.
Oh my God, you have to please. Yeah, if you get to,
Phil, I have a question.
Yeah,
if he wins his second Emmy, will you go so far as to say that he is now the biggest guest that we've ever had so far?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh no. You've had Eric Bischoff on. You've had those are way.
How many Emmys does Eric Bischoff have on his show?
Eric Bischoff has been a staple of national television for 30 plus years. He's got me beat. But
see, we were actually having this conversation before you showed up, John. He's like, "Is John the biggest star we've ever had?" I'm like, "I think I could argue Eric Bischoff," and he's like, "No, he's an Emmy Award winner." I'm like, "Yeah, it's really cool," and I'm not taking away anything from John for being an Emmy Award winner, but Eric Bischoff changed wrestling.
Eric Bischoff is a pro wrestling legend. I promise you, he's gonna be in. Look at him. Look at The Rock.
There's a pro wrestling legend right there.
Right there. That's not just a pro wrestling legend, there's a pop culture icon.
All time number one. My favorite for him was beginning of '97 till today. Love me some Rock.
Yeah, I'm a huge theme music mark, like huge, and his music back then. I love it, and when I hear it, I can't
I
stop.
loved his 2003 theme when he turned
Heel
heel
theme.
and
It's a
did
fun
the
theme.
Yes, I do like
his
the.
hooking
It's called
thing. I love
Hollywood.
that one.
Yeah.
Well,
Hollywood one, yeah.
as we tape this, just yesterday, I taped a future episode of One on One with Jon Alba, which you can find on adfreeshows.com. And I did a near hour-long conversation with Mikey Ruckus, who's the guy behind all the music on AEW.
Yes.
And it is one of the coolest interviews I've ever done. And I cannot wait for you guys to hear it.
Ruckus is on my short list of people I'd like to get on the show. I absolutely love. I mean, he does plenty of AEW music, obviously, but Eddie Kingston's and Adam Cole's, those are bangers. They're on my playlist constantly. I love them.
So can I real quick so everyone can see? So before we go on the air, I have music that I've canned into the thing. So we have music to listen to before. So in my I'm just gonna maybe five seconds so we don't get copyrighted.
You're gonna copyright us. No.
But this is legitimately one of the songs that we listen to before we start.
You know it's all about the power.
So, I mean, and Mikey Ruckus made that? Is that what you're telling me?
Mikey Ruckus made that.
You totally you threw me for a complete swerve on that one.
Wait, what did you think it was going to be?
You know, I actually wonder something. As Frank was doing that, The Rock fell out of the ring with a trash can on his head. I wonder what it feels like to have the metal trash can put over your head and then have it get hit with a chair.
I don't think it's very fun.
You know, Henry, we could test that theory at the next Top Guy weekend if you wanted. I'm sure we can find some takers.
I mean, if you want to let me put a metal trash can over your head and let me hit you with a major league swing with a chair, I'm all for that money, Mike.
No.
I got no problem with that at all.
I think we'll find somebody else.
I'm not volunteering to be the person inside the trash can, however.
One thing I want you guys to watch while this is going on I want you to watch the evolution of Terry Funk's suspenders in this match. by the time he is eliminated, his pants are nearly at his ankles. So keep an eye on that.
Well, I know one suspender is officially off right now.
One suspender is off. The other one is barely hanging on.
Yes.
I mean, as long as he got paid a 12-pack of beer when he's done, he doesn't give.
Well, remember, anything that comes out of a box is over. There's Terry Funk doing a moonsault because that's normal.
You know, do you think
Terry is that one of his standard moves in ECW?
What's that about, Terry?
Oh, sorry.
I said, was that one of his standard moves in ECW?
Nothing is standard in ECW.
No, right.
My question was, do you think Terry Funk could have had a longer career in WWE, or maybe had like a main event run or a main event feud? Because other than his work with Mick, I don't remember him having a lot of one-on-one feuds.
Yeah, I mean, I think he definitely could have. Sorry, Brandon, go ahead.
I just don't think it was a Styles mesh.
Sure.
Because before this era, the WWF was all about the big characters and the larger-than-life personalities, and not really so much on the bell-to-bell sort of action. And
But Terry Funk's an all-time great character.
Yeah, I agree, but at this point he was past his prime. There was no main events.
I could kind of see with the Attitude Era, especially with the way that he started the match, where he came out with the chainsaw and his Foley was throwing chairs at him. He was just kind of hitting them. I could maybe see like a mid-card run. Like I could see him later this year. They'd introduced a hardcore title. I could see him as a hardcore champion. I could see him maybe as the European or maybe even the Intercontinental champion. But I don't know that he'd have a top title run. I could still see this Terry Funk, because figure within the last 12 months that got us to Royal Rumble 98, he was the ECW World Heavyweight Champion. He was the top champion of a promotion within that 12-month span. I could see him being a champion here. Just I don't see Vince all that eager to give him the World Wrestling Federation title.
Question, just to piggyback off of that, with this idea that he could have been involved. Do you think Austin's first challenger for the title, suppose they do the segment with McMahon in Philadelphia, and instead of Dude Love coming out, it's not Chainsaw Charlie, but it's actual Terry Funk. Do you think that could have drawn a buy rate or a crowd in Greensboro? And do you think that could have gotten Austin?
I'll tell you what, that could have been really fun to see Terry Funk against Austin, like unique Terry Funk against Austin. That really could have been a lot of fun, actually.
Yeah, I was just curious if you thought that could work. Because I'm not even saying
now.
he would need the belt, but I'm saying just to be kind of that chaser for Austin's, maybe one of his initial programs.
I think it's like an establisher, right? Like you put Legend with him, and it's like, hey, let's get something. I don't know if it's the first thing you want to do after winning the title, but there goes Cactus Jack. He's out, but Mick Foley's night is not done.
Right. That's gonna say. I mean, I honestly, when I'm watching this live, I loved the fact that they put the three faces of Foley in this show.
I mean, that's the defining part of this match. It's the best.
My question is does he get 3 paydays because it's 3 separate characters?
I don't think so.
Maybe each character gets a third of that total payday.
There you go.
Oh, good one, Henry. So, John, I wanted to ask you, did you watch ECW at all?
Not so much. Like in hindsight, I've gone back and watched a lot of ECW, but not a ton of ECW. I'm familiar enough, and Doug McDonald, who was the co-host of my podcast that I had up about Terry Funk's suspenders have come undone. Everyone, just so you know. Doug McDonald, who was the co-host of my podcast Living the Gimmick that I had prior to this, he was a huge ECW fan, so I familiarized myself with it through our watch-alongs that we would do and stuff like that.
Were you more a WWF fan, John, or were you a WCW fan as well at this time? You said this was kind of the start of your fandom. Were you a WWF loyalist, or did you watch a little bit of both? What did that look like for you?
Yeah, I was a total WWF loyalist. I grew up in Jersey, so it was Northeast territory for me. And look who it is. Blackjack Bradshaw.
So everybody out there in AFS land understands that John Bradshaw Layfield's Zoom that he did with us was incredible.
It was.
He certainly is not the person he plays on TV. He was phenomenal.
He is such an articulate speaker too, and I think his willingness to interact with us and the detailed level of responses he gave. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Frank, but I found it phenomenal.
He was just an open book, and I love that stuff because, you know. And I don't know, John, if you found this in your career with wrestlers, but there's certain ones that just continue to want to try to keep that kayfabe. Brooklyn Brawler is one of them. I think that's why he was so bad when he Zoomed with us, because he wouldn't give any details. He wouldn't say anything. He wouldn't.
No offense, Brawler, but you weren't the best.
No, he was not. No offense.
I think
at
that
Randy Wrights PW on Twitter.
I think that some people feel responsibility to quote unquote protect the business, but I also think that there are a lot of wrestlers out there today who recognize that kayfabe doesn't really exist anymore, and people are in on the gag. You know, if that makes sense. People understand. Look at Terry Funk; he's the best. People understand that what they're watching is not real, and they're losing themselves in the moment while not letting it get lost on them that what they're watching is fiction. So some wrestlers recognize that, and they're willing to talk a little further about the art.
I think, to your point, the reason why we see a lot more high spots, dangerous stuff, oh my God moments, is so you get into that aspect of
look at this.
Because
look at this. Sorry, not to cut you off.
Oh, you're good. That's gonna be you in a week, buddy.
It's Double J.
Jeff Jarrett is attacking Owen Hart.
I know.
That is Jeff Jarrett of Four Horsemen fame.
Ain't it great?
Oh,
yeah, look at that. This is that. Oh, that fan just got taken out by Owen Hart. Jeez.
What NWA belt is that?
I think at this time he was the North American champion.
I believe so.
Yes. The NWA stuff was not great, but
no. No. I have to tell you so I'm not kidding you. His theme music from this, when he was this, I could play it on a loop for hours. I'm not kidding you. I'm not kidding you. His music is so good.
Can you give us a demonstration of it?
No,
please don't.
It's not going to be good. I'd have to play it. I have it on my computer, but it's that I think he was like he voiced it in the beginning. He's like, the only something in wrestling history. I can't even remember what it was, but I don't know if you're familiar with the WWE was putting out those uncaged albums.
Yep.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
I think when that was on there, like I couldn't stop. because I was like, holy shit, they actually released this. And I think they've released every single one of his themes on those Uncaged albums, because I loved his dun 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 dun. I love that one too.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
you can't beat Spend My Days though.
Yeah, no, I've got them all.
Days working hard on the go, but the hands on the clock keep spinning too slow.
Yeah,
And now some of the most lethal hands, Steve Blackman is under the fray.
You talk about a great theme. Steve Blackman wasn't using that theme yet for here, but I love the Steve Blackman theme.
The Lethal Weapon one?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, it really is.
They released that on Uncaged too, and I really
it's
liked
way
it.
cooler than Steve Blackman.
Mm-hmm.
So John, I wanted to tell you that you know, I didn't know much about you, and I did follow you on Twitter, and you went live the night that all those releases happened. Do you remember that? And that's when I became a fan of yours. I'm just telling you that right now because
I agree.
I was like on the edge of my seat, and just the conversations. And was it with your podcast co-host? Was that who was with you?
Well, we did 2 release shows. I did one with Connor Casey of Comic Book, and I did one with Steve Kaufman of Ad Free Shows.
Okay, I couldn't remember who you were with, but it was the most recent one.
The most recent one that was with Steve from Ad Free Shows. Yep.
Okay. And the level of detail that you had, your inside knowledge to it, because I am a WWE loyalist, or at least I was, but these releases, for some reason, have really bothered me. I'm an accountant. I'm actually a controller now, and I get the financial implications of it. So my thing is, maybe release the wrestlers that we're not seeing on TV, and not release wrestlers like at the time Aleister Black that's in the middle of a storyline, or even they had that, what is it, the Diamond Mine? They released Tyler Russ,
Keith Lee, Karrion Kross, Scarlett.
Well, I mean, they were releasing guys that were in the middle of storylines. I mean, why would you release Hit Row when they've been on TV for the last month?
Yeah.
A lot of that shit just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah,
and it's really turning me off. And quite frankly, even the reboot of NXT, I'm not.
It's not as good.
Haven't seen a single episode.
I've watched it. It's such a different feel.
Yeah, so like they're having what is it? Is it War Games?
War Games.
Yes.
And like I want to see them in an arena, but they're going to be probably in that little studio again, and I don't know. It just,
from what I heard, there's no actual storyline reason for them to have a War Games with the participants in the match.
Yeah. Well, I mean, first off, thank you for the kind words. I appreciate that. As far as the War Games stuff, like they're doing old guard versus new guard NXT, so that's kind of the impetus for that.
Wait, LA Knight's old guard?
He was NXT 1.0 era. He was black and gold.
I think you've got a point there. I didn't think about it that way, but you're right.
Yeah.
Do you think this is the last War Games we see, John? I mean, I almost think that's a concept I could see them doing away with, because that was a Triple H era concept, and I just don't think it fits the current model of NXT. I think this might be the last one.
I think that's very possible. We'll see how it goes. I mean, listen, NXT 2.0, I wouldn't say it's necessarily for me. I don't love it as Kurgan steps to the ring here.
Speaking of someone you don't love. Yeah.
Kurgan is the type of guy you could expect to see in NXT 2.0, but there is a lot of talent there. Like I've said this on social media, I think that Carmelo Hayes can be a major player in WWE. I think Braun Breaker can be a player. So there is talent there. It's a totally different product.
Mm-hmm.
Now, quick question, because this is, I mean, I was a huge fan of Adam Cole, and he's gone. I was at All Out to see him debut. I was more surprised at that actually than I was of Brian showing up or Bryan Danielson. But do you see, or do you have knowledge? I don't know, of what's going on with Johnny Gargano.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal is going to be with Johnny Gargano. It seems like NXT 2.0 is probably not the best fit for him, but I also don't know if the main roster is the best fit for him.
Nope.
it feels like he'd be someone lost in the equation a little bit.
Oh
Absolutely.
yeah, I agree. Yeah.
But the thing is, it can't just be a case of everyone goes to AEW, right?
No, it can't.
So
Nope.
I don't really know what he would want to do. Obviously, his wife is still there. He brings a lot of value to them. He's great to work with. Everyone loves working with Johnny Gargano, and he puts on great matches with everyone's with. I thought his match on NXT 2.0 last week, actually his ladder match with Braun Breaker, I thought was excellent. So, Braun Breaker, for all intents and purposes, is someone who's still pretty new to things, and I thought he made him look great. So there's certainly value there. I don't know what the deal is going to be, because I don't ever see NXT really running out of that venue anymore. And here's Marco Mero.
Mero.
To your point, John, with Johnny Gargano, and let me just go and put this up here right now, because I fucking hate Dave Meltzer. But Johnny Gargano has more 5-star matches than any individual in WWE history.
Yeah.
He's had 4 5-star matches.
Yeah. I was at one of them and it was incredible.
His Andrade, 2 of his matches with
Adam Cole.
Yep.
Were you at one of those, John? Which one?
I was at the New York one when he won the title, and it was incredible.
Yeah.
I was at the one where he lost the title at TakeOver 25.
If you can't say, A, he isn't one of the best wrestlers in the world, and B, they can't find a good spot for him on the main roster, which they should absolutely be able to do, and they won't. That right there is like the epitome of what is currently wrong with modern day WWE. Is they can't find something for a guy like a Johnny Gargano or an Adam Cole to make them want to stay.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of it. I think WWE's biggest problems right now, like I've had my Twitter blowing up today because I created a thread about Roman Reigns' title run. And for me, what it all boils down to is WWE right now is really bad at creating baby faces that can become top guys.
I agree with that.
And Johnny Gargano is a layup in that sense. But it's just, and here's one of my favorite themes of all time, by the way.
Yes.
Shamrock.
I do love this one. Yep.
But yeah, I just don't know if Johnny Gargano pans out on the main roster. But I also, if Johnny Gargano goes to AEW, does he move a needle? If CM Punk and Bryan Danielson can't move a needle right now, does Johnny Gargano? And I don't mean that with any disrespect to Johnny Gargano. He's incredible. He's one of my all-time favorite wrestlers. But it's just we're at this weird impasse right now where we're like trying to figure out how many pro wrestling fans there are out there. Because I agree with CM Punk when he said that the casual wrestling fan doesn't really exist anymore.
Nope.
I don't think it does. Or if it does, it's not nearly as many as people seem to think there are. So I'm curious to see what he ends up doing. His wife being there certainly plays into the equation.
I think that no matter who AEW signs, until they establish a global footprint, they're not going to get much better ratings.
I agree with that.
And I mean, they're absolutely doing a great job with what they've got. I mean, they've got top tier talent. They could have The Rock come down in a helicopter and jump down and beat everyone up, or 800 other million things. And, it'll get a pop. It'll get a slight ratings increase for a week or two, but then it'll go back down to that 900 to 1.1 million they've been getting consistently. And until they get that global footprint, they're not going to get better than that.
I have 2 questions for John, if you don't mind, and you guys can chime in as well. But I want to go back first to what you said about there not being a lot of good baby faces, and I would agree with that. So my first question is, other than John Cena, who is the last baby face that really got you to invest as a pro wrestling fan? That's the first question. And the second question, kind of piggybacking off the CM Punk thing with the casual wrestling fan, because I agree with you. I don't think in terms of sitting down to watch a Raw or a SmackDown, there are a lot of casual wrestling fans. But do you think maybe just the medium to reach casual wrestling fans might have changed? Because even though somebody's not willing to commit 2 to 3 hours to watch TV, you might have casual wrestling fans that, like, if they're scrolling through a Facebook feed or a Twitter feed and they see a 5-minute wrestling video, they might watch that. So do you think in that sense the casual wrestling fan might still be out there? I know those are 2 kind of loaded questions, and I hope you didn't mind. my posing them. I just thought it could lead for a little bit of interesting
Yeah.
discussion on a few points you brought up.
I think there's been a lot of great baby faces that have come around, but the problem is those baby faces aren't sustained, right?
I agree.
So like Kofi Kingston has Kofi Mania. It's an amazing moment. I was there for that. I thought it was one of the coolest pro wrestling moments I've ever been a part of. And he has his title run, and then he's regulated right back down to the mid card, right? And Kevin Owens, for example, this past year, at the beginning of the year, he's got this white hot feud with Roman Reigns, and after he doesn't win the title, he's regulated back to the mid card. He doesn't elevate, and then they are forced to turn him as a result. So, like the in terms of sustained baby faces, the last one that I was probably truly invested in on the WWE side is probably Bryan Danielson, Daniel Bryan, I'd say.
Yep. Yeah.
But as far as the second question, I think pro wrestling, and here comes Mankind, second Foley here.
Man, he looks familiar.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so awesome.
I think Terry Funk's about to get eliminated, so try to keep an eye on where his pants are. But yeah, look at it. His ass is like hanging out.
Oh my gosh.
Look at
It'd be funny if he gets eliminated by Mankind.
And he did.
He did.
No,
Oh,
feet
boom.
did not touch.
He's out. Look
Now
at that.
he's out.
He's
His
out.
pants are well below his ass.
Yeah, like,
Suspenders
he is,
did not work out for him. But I think pro wrestling kind of shifts with pop culture a bit, where like what was really hot around the time of this show that we're watching, South Park, shows
God,
like that lend themselves to what some of the raw, raunchy elements of pro wrestling were. And that's why you always hear people are like, oh, I used to love, like back in the Attitude Era, it was raunchy and all that stuff. Well, that's because pop culture at the time was raunchy. Cops was a huge show, stuff like that. It fed into that. So viewing habits change. And as that stuff changes, the way that people consume pro wrestling changed as well. And I think one of the things that really hurt mainstream pro wrestling was Raw going to 3 hours.
I would agree.
100%.
I think that turned a lot of people off wrestling. And you can see when it went 3 hours 10 years ago, they had 3.5, 4 million people watching routinely every single week. And that audience is now more than 50% down. So,
WCW tried that for like a year and a half before Time Warner took that third hour away from them. It didn't work 25 years ago. What made WWE think it would work now?
Yeah.
Hey, I don't know if you guys, I was actually watching this Rumble before we got on, and he had like Goldust, he just came out. Had
the
like
artist formerly known as Goldust.
This god awful green neon tracksuit, like except like he's wearing now, except it's just bright like radiation green and like green paint. And it's like that looks nothing like Goldust or the artist formerly known as. It was. I forgot that he had this face.
Yes, that's probably a good thing that you forgot. That.
He probably talks about this though slightly more than he does Seven. So that's got to be something.
He still shies away from talking about this era because Dustin in this era is
not in a great place. Yeah,
in the addiction, hard on the alcohol. You see him here. I mean, he's a big guy. He's 6'5", and he's not ever going to be like a stick skinny, but he is very overweight, very out of shape, hitting hard on the alcohol and the pills, and just in the middle of a spiral because he can't get anything to stick. So he's willing to suggest getting breast implants to try and jumpstart this thing and get going in a positive direction.
I'm so glad Vince said no.
Circling back quick to a conversation we were having a moment ago about sustained baby faces. WWE, they had the perfect golden child, and they dropped the ball not once but twice with him. And that's Finn Balor. And I'll give you a couple of great examples as to why. And no, Brandy, it's not because of the hog. So that is not it.
Oh wait, hold on. We gotta appreciate Double J real quick here, or else if he'll listen to this, he'll yell at the researcher, and we can't have any of that. So
at least he's not likely to call me a liar like the supposed big guest that Phil was making reference to earlier, whose name I won't say again.
Wow. So with Finn Balor, when they first had him on, he had the diva persona. That's marketable to kids, to children, to
the elderly,
20-year-olds who like cool demon stuff. I mean, that was like kind of Rey Mysterio level of marketable to pretty much anybody. And only that, but he's a top tier talent in the ring. He can talk in the microphone. And so, I mean, obviously he got hurt and lost the Universal Championship after he won it, and he came back and he went basically nowhere. Yeah. But then they sent him to NXT with the Prince attitude and this just I don't give a fuck, I'll stomp through it what I want kind of attitude. And it was the best version of Finn Balor I had ever seen. If they had brought that ass-kicking version of Finn Balor up to the main roster, kept that persona instead of bringing him back as the ordinary man that can do extraordinary things bullshit gimmick, he would be over like Rover right now. I can't think of any single individual that it could have marketed, pushed, and had a better babyface run with than Finn Balor.
I agree. Real quick, we just need to see this right here.
Yep.
Jeff's going to do his strut.
There it is, the Fargo strut.
Thrown right out of the ring.
Bye.
Crowd goes nuts. You know why? You know why? Because everyone fucking hates Jeff Jarrett.
Almost fast forwarded through this entire part of the Royal Rumble because he was out in the ring.
I'm personally grateful.
I want to point out.
Oh my God! Speaking of our favorite,
speaking of things that we fast forward,
Eric Bischoff would love to be here to fire the honky tonk man.
That is perfect. A while ago, in the previous iteration of our show, we all chipped in and got Eric Bischoff a guitar. It was autographed by 3 individuals: the Honky Tonk Man, Jeff Jarrett,
oh my,
and
Jimmy Hart.
Yeah, Jimmy Hart. And we sent it to him, and we told him we wanted it to break it over somebody's head. He says, "No, I'm going to keep it. I'm going to hang it up," and blah blah blah. No, we bought that for you to smash.
That's so funny. That's so funny. I love that. That's great. And China and oof, yikes. Oh. There was a really funny thing. I didn't want to cut you off at the point you were making about Balor, but there's a really funny thing that happened there that just Mark Marrow has done amazing things outside of wrestling, and he really has become like this very inspirational figure. Yeah, it's really cool. That. But during this time, he was just not all there. And so Owen Hart and Jeff Jarrett are going at it. It's this big heat spot. Crowd's going nuts because Owen Hart's getting his comeuppance.
I noticed this.
And Mark Marrow's just trying to get in on the action, but he's clearly not supposed to be part of the story at all. And Mark Marrow's like trying to like get in, and Owen's just like pushing him off and just like going on. I was like, your lack of awareness and perception was not. Like
you don't belong here. Go away. This doesn't involve you.
No.
Owen is such a ring general.
I don't understand why the Honky Tonk Man's in this match.
Well, because they're the celebrities for that year. They always try to bring in
bad, man.
Cool,
we needed 30 bodies.
Who's coming out here? Who is this? Oh,
they used Mick Foley 3 times.
iPad himself.
Okay, so every time I see Ahmed Johnson, there's only one thing I can think of, and that's the WWE Raw video game for the PlayStation.
Mm-hmm.
And on that game, they would have like these storylines where you fight people. They kept cutting promos after every match, and Ahmed Johnson was just complete and utter nonsense, just like his character in the show. But it was next level. I to this day I can't get it out of my mind, and I wish I could.
I need to tell you that the only thing. I've been to so many wrestling shows, and we've talked. Look how like nonchalantly he gets in the ring.
It's not in a great place here.
So I have to say, the only thing that I ever remember about Ahmed Johnson is the fact that his tights never seemed to not manage to make it into his ass. And I'm saying this because I'll never forget this. I was at a house show. This is the house show, everybody, where I took out the 4-year-old kid. Thank you. To get to Shawn Michaels, but. Ahmed's in the middle of the ring. His jock strap is falling out of his back end, and his one half of his tights are way up in there. And I'm looking at my friend, and I'm going, "We're not on TV. Can't he just pull that thing out of there? Like what's going? Like I don't." So every time I see Ahmed, I'm like, "That's really all that ever happens to him is just whoop right up there." Like that's the only thing I ever remember him for.
Yeah, that's.
Sorry. Sorry to gross everybody out.
So since we're watching the Rumble's coming up, I want to hear predictions. Who's winning the men's and women's Royal Rumble this year?
Whoa, look at Mark Henry.
I don't think they know who's winning the men's and women's Royal Rumbles yet. But
well, they don't know. But
if
I have
had
my
to
prediction.
guess, I would say probably Brock Lesnar.
Oh,
And
God, no.
I'll say Brock Lesnar. And if she's healthy, I would love to see Bayley win it. But I don't
that's
know if she'll
exactly
be ready
who
yet.
I would
Bailey's
say.
a good pick.
Do they
I don't know
even
if she'll be
have
back
30
yet.
women left on the roster
Yeah,
to fill out a
seriously.
Royal Rumble match?
That's a valid question.
They'll bring half from NXT, and then after it's over, they'll fire 10 of them.
And they'll accidentally fire the one that run the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, right. But it'll be like, oh, we released Bianca
Whoopsie.
Belair. Even if
You
we're-
no,
yeah.
stop that. You can't take that booking. Come back. We need you.
Yeah, so I will say that even now, because I love AEW. I don't miss it. I've been to a shit ton of shows. I was just at their Boston show the end of October, and I will say that they need to work on their women's division a little bit.
Oh, absolutely. I pray that Ember Moon goes there. When they listed all of those releases, the first thing I thought was Ember Moon can elevate AEW's women's division. That's who they need.
She would be phenomenal. She really would, because we never got to see what she could do on main roster WWE, but her in NXT was phenomenal.
And that was one of the releases that pissed me off. Ember Moon, why? Like what the hell was the point of that? I mean, she was really. I mean, she was good. She was talented. She connected with the fans. What the hell?
She didn't connect with Vince McMahon.
I do have a couple Rumble picks. I'll start with the obvious one for the women's Rumble. I've got to do it. I think
Nope, don't say it. Don't you say it.
The wonderful,
Nope.
the Queen, Charlotte Flair, win
There
the
it is.
Rumble match and get a title shot. I have to pick Charlotte. I think she really is the most qualified, and I think they could do it in a way, because I just remember she's
There
the
goes Ahmed
SmackDown,
Johnson.
she's the
So you're
SmackDown
saying
Women's
she's
Champion.
back-to-back Rumble wins.
It wouldn't be back to back because Bianca won last year, but I could see
Oh no,
them.
it was the year before.
Ooh, they took out the referee.
I could see it if she loses the title between now and then. I could see her winning, or maybe they do like a unification match in Texas, because there's going to be something big in Texas.
So
What, was I the only one that saw that just a second
No,
ago?
I
When they
saw
eliminated
it
the guy with the
too.
rebel flag in his pants, they knocked down Tim White.
That's Phineas I.
So
It's,
obviously I'm going with Bayley for the women's pick because that's freaking fantastic.
but it
I mean, if
wasn't
she's
her,
healthy, I don't know if she's healthy or
yeah,
not.
if she's healthy.
her injury happened in July, isn't it? A 9-month
said
injury.
9 months.
A torn ACL can be anywhere from 6 to 12 months.
Yeah.
And don't they sometimes overestimate the
Sometimes
timeline
they
if
do,
they
yeah.
want to do a
Mhm.
surprise?
The men's Rumble, I know Brock Lesnar's the obvious choice, but God, Brock Lesnar's a talented individual. I've actually gone on record on the show saying that Brock Lesnar is necessary to WWE because he does bring out outside eyeballs from other sources other than wrestling fans, and he does bring in revenue. That being said, I'm not the biggest Brock Lesnar guy, and I want to see. Remember, do you remember when the Royal Rumble winner wasn't as predictable?
Yes.
I want to see I want to see Johnny Gargano pop into the Royal Rumble where a lot of people know him. No one expects him to win, and he wins. Even if he doesn't win the title at Mania, that's like, holy shit. That's you. AJ Styles should have won the Rumble at his debut. That would have been.
I'll give you an
actually
outside pick. There's some reports indicating that Walter may be getting a call up. I think Walter and Big E at WrestleMania would be a blast. And
So he
love
wouldn't
to see
get
a match like
Claymore and lose in 3 seconds like he did at Survivor Series 2 years ago.
I think Walter and Big E in a meaty men slap and meat match would be a lot of fun. So,
You know what my surprise pick for the men could be? What about they teased it to death at Survivor Series and they're having a Rumble in a dome? What about The Rock?
Oh,
coming
yep.
back
That's the
and
other one.
winning the Rumble to challenge Roman at the stadium in Texas? Because the original plan, I believe, years ago,
I got a couple of problems with that. Number one, The Rock is a Hollywood icon. There is no Hollywood studio in America that's going to let him get in a ring and wrestle a real match for a title. because there's too much of a risk he could hurt himself. At
That's
that
valid.
point, he's a liability to the studios. Number two, why? Why is that needed in 2021? If you want to use The Rock for nostalgia, that's great. Whatever. But if you're going to bring The Rock back to wrestle for the Universal title, then I insist that for Monday Night Raw, Big E wrestle Hulk Hogan and Hulk Hogan get put over, because we don't need The Rock to have a goddamn title in 2022.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Period.
I saw how the crowd stood up. I don't have the audio on, but I would bet
Is it?
based on
Is
how
it?
the
Definitely
crowd
Steve
stood up.
Austin.
Is it?
It's
Maybe.
yeah.
I believe it
Everybody
is.
just
Oh, look
Stop.
at oh, look
They have
at
the
it. It's gotta be
subtitles
Steve.
on.
I think he comes through the
With
crowd,
the truck.
right?
Does he come with the truck?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
he comes-
Oh,
yes.
what,
Boom,
wasn't
there
this?
we
Here he
Oh,
is.
here he
this-
is.
Here I am.
Oh, never mind.
go. Now we're gonna clean some ring here.
Oh,
But-
Mark,
no,
you're
I mean,
This
supposed
was
to go
the year that he had like the price over his head, right?
Yep.
They didn't-
no,
McMahon-
no, that was the next year.
Oh, 99. Okay.
Yeah,
He
the
and
bounty
McMahon
when it
start
was
the
for
99
McMahon.
Rumble, and I think, if I remember right, doesn't McMahon win that Rumble?
Yes.
Yes, he does.
I don't know. I've
Um,
watched this entire show as I've listened to you guys banter back and forth. This is the first real opportunity that Vince McMahon and the World Wrestling Federation have to respond to the debacle
Of
that is Ted
Starrcade.
Turner's WCW Starrcade 1997.
mhm.
Good point.
And I have to honestly say, I think that this is better.
I would
You
agree.
spent 15 months building towards Sting and Hogan at Starrcade 97, which, if done correctly, could legitimately be the final death blow to the World Wrestling Federation, regardless of whether or not to bring Mike Tyson in or not. And they screwed it up.
Yeah.
Well, we'll never know exactly how they screwed it up, because Nick Patrick, Hulk Hogan, and Eric Bischoff all tell different stories. And honestly, I don't know who I believe. But it is this. I don't know if we're actually going to spend the time to watch the main event. It's the main event that sees Shawn Michaels get himself injured in that casket match against The Undertaker.
This match. It's this main event.
That begins a road in which the WWF is able to climb back
Yeah.
and begin to form more of a fighting prowess against WCW.
I don't think it can be understated how important Mike Tyson was, though, to all this. Like,
Yeah.
Mike Tyson was legitimately one of the biggest stars in the world here. So having him cheering on Cold Stone, as he says,
That's Steve.
is important.
To your point, John, do you think he is the ultimate celebrity used by WWE? Could you make the case Mike
He's the
Tyson
most.
was the best
He's the
use
most
of it?
important one.
Yep.
So, circling back to you, Henry, and why The Rock should be a good choice to face Roman Reigns, because I actually do think there's a lot of meat on the bone there with that. Obviously, there's the family connection. Reigns calls himself the head of the table. Clearly, The Rock is the more successful of the two, because not only has he won more one titles and done more for the business, but is the biggest star in Hollywood, or one of. I think he's the highest paid star. Anyway, so, but on top of that, again, somebody like The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, now versus 10 years ago, is going to bring a lot of outside eyeballs to the product, which is what Vince McMahon wants. He wants to generate those eyeballs and
So,
revenue.
Phil, you just told the story of the match right there. You don't need the championship to tell all that.
Nope.
You just told the story. So, like, I think there's a lot of value in Roman Reigns versus The Rock, but it definitely doesn't need the title attached to it.
Well, and if Roman Reigns is the champion, he's going to go over, because The Rock just doesn't have time for.
I know, but and then also if you take the championship out of it, I think it makes it more of a pick'em, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
So
I really think that Roman Reigns' reign is going to end at WrestleMania.
So-
I don't. How are you going to fill that stadium with 100,000 people twice
The Rock.
without
Rock.
having The Rock?
I
Without
don't-
It has to be.
I don't
the
think
Dallas
The Rock-
Cowboys come out and do a battle royal with insert random wrestlers here.
Wait, did you say Cowboys or the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders? Because that would fill the 100,000.
I said Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, no, cheerleaders.
Also, to go back to your point for just a second, I will say that if Roman Reigns and The Rock, if they ultimately decide to use The Rock at this WrestleMania for one of the two nights, I agree with John. I don't think that needs the title,
No.
in part because I think that as a wrestling organization, the idea is that your top champion, whoever he or she is, depending on which division you're talking about, is someone that should be on the show every single week. It's why I would oppose the idea of making Brock Lesnar champion. And
he's not on the show every week.
Hold on. I'm not finished. Don't cut me off. For the record, giving him the title over Kofi Kingston, even if you wanted eyeballs on the product, was a shit idea that cut Kofi Kingston off at the heels when he didn't deserve to be cut off.
Yeah. I don't think The Rock is at this year's WrestleMania. I think they
saved that for LA.
I agree with that.
You have to.
I'm just, to me, I'm philosophically opposed to the idea of giving a star like The Rock or Brock Lesnar or even Edge, though I wouldn't be upset if Edge got one more title run because of the way his career abruptly stopped. But I'm not for giving a part-time wrestler a world title. It doesn't make sense. If your idea is to draw more eyes to the product and you want someone like a Brock Lesnar that can do that, fantastic. I don't know that giving him the world championship and then letting him go off and do his own thing, whether it be sitting on his farm in Minnesota, having tea with his wife on the third Tuesday in November, or him going back to UFC with your world title, I just don't know that makes sense.
Brock Lesnar actually lives in Canada now.
I've actually got a sleeper pick.
Yeah. Let John finish, guys.
No. I was just gonna say the one counterpoint I just say to that is that in combat sports, real combat sports, the champion is an attraction, right? The champion is not fighting at every single UFC show. The champion fights once every 3 months, 4 months, whatever it is, and it's an attraction. And so I understand that mentality, and I don't think your champion. I'll disagree with you on this. I don't think the champion necessarily needs to be on TV every single week. Should it be on TV more than what Brock Lesnar was? Yes. But I don't necessarily agree with the idea that the champion needs to be on TV every single week, because I do think there's a little bit of an overexposure problem. Plus, it allows you to flesh out other characters on your roster who one day can challenge for that championship. So I don't hate that, but I don't know. I just, that's my mentality. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut off anyone.
I can't say I disagree with that point of view, John.
I agree with what John said. That was why I like Brock's original reign, because Brock wasn't on every week, so it made it special when he was there.
If you're going to have a champion on every week, I believe, my personal opinion, I think the way they're doing it with Roman Reigns every week, it's great because he's not wrestling every week. He's not necessarily involved in the main event every week, but he's there. He's making his presence known, and he's still establishing himself as the most dominant guy on SmackDown. So there's that looming thing over everyone else on SmackDown that I'm here, I'm still on top. I don't have to wrestle to let everyone know I am on top. I have yet to get tired of seeing Roman Reigns on SmackDown every week.
I would agree.
Counterpoint to that, I don't think we need to see Paul Heyman every week.
That is a personal bias because you don't like Paul Heyman.
I think Roman Reigns can talk. I don't think we need Paul Heyman.
What's your counterpoint, Jeff?
Here's my counterpoint to Roman Reigns and why you love seeing Roman Reigns on TV so much. It's because that show needs him because they have nobody else.
Oh,
and it goes back to my main point here is that no credible babyface challengers have been established. So you should not be watching a show to want to see the heel. You should, in theory, be wanting, like, the babyface is supposed to be the brand, right? Like, a heel champion is made so you can have a great babyface to dethrone them or to challenge them or whatever it may be. If there's no incentive to root for anybody, well, what are we watching for, right? So Roman Reigns exudes star power. He absolutely does. And the stuff on SmackDown that he's involved in is some of the more interesting stuff because he's got a lot of great creative force behind him. He's got Paul Heyman, one of the greatest creative minds in the history of pro wrestling, behind him. So it makes that stuff must see, but it's also at the expense that nobody else has been positioned in a way where if Roman Reigns is not on the show, you notice it because nobody else is grabbing the attention.
Very true. I can't argue with that logic.
Whereas if Kenny Omega is not on an episode of Dynamite, there's a lot of other people who can steal the show, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm glad Quello's not here because you mentioned the word Kenny Omega and he just goes off on everybody.
I mean, and I don't like AEW, WWE comparisons, but it's just for the sake of argument here. Like there are more fleshed out characters that if someone is not there, you're like, okay, I can count on somebody else to headline the show and buy into that.
And
So-
going a step further, go ahead, Phil.
No, I was just going to say, so I try to ask almost every guest about this. The PWI Top 500. Some guests say it's relevant. Some people say it's political. This year, it came down between Roman Reigns and Kenny Omega for the number one spot, and it was heavily debated. Are you more of a? Do you think it's just a political thing, or do you think it has relevance?
I mean, I think it's absolutely relevant. I think you ask any wrestler, they value it tremendously. I think Kenny Omega was the pro wrestler of the year. I think Roman Reigns, I think Roman Reigns is the biggest star in wrestling. Those are two different things, you know? And by me saying that I think Kenny Omega was the best pro wrestler in the world this year, that's not a shot on Roman Reigns. It's not a shot on him. There's this tribalism that exists that everyone's like, oh my God, it has to be this versus this versus this versus this. It doesn't have to be that. That's just what people make it out to be. If I was the number 2 wrestler in the world, I'd be pretty damn happy about that, you know?
And it would push me to want to be number 1.
Sure.
That actually led me to look up the number 500 person, Shockwave the Robot, which was hilarious because when I looked up Shockwave the Robot, the first thing I found was Hornswoggle against Shockwave the Robot, which was funny because we had Hornswoggle as a guest later that day. So I got to ask him about that before we aired. That story was
Very
great.
nice.
And in case you were wondering, the robot does not do a job, and the robot does not take bumps.
He does not.
Just like RoboCop.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I watched some of that Hornswoggle match, and hot take, that is the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Hey, if we could go
I
back
thought
for
the
just
stupidest was the Invisible Man.
That's even stupider. Yeah.
if we could go back for 1 second to what John was just saying a second ago about Kenny Omega and Roman Reigns, I will say that of all the wrestling I've seen this year, my favorite Kenny Omega match wasn't an AEW match. A matter of fact, I think I watched it with you, Brandy. It was that Triple Mania match that he had with Andrade.
With Andrade and Regina.
Honestly,
You know what's funny about that match? I actually did not think that match was as good as I was hoping it was going to be.
Really?
I think part of it for me is that with AEW, when he was running around as the AAA champion and the Impact champion and the AEW World champion, part of my problem with Kenny Omega, and I don't see this as necessarily a bad thing, but it's more of a constructive criticism, really. My problem with Kenny Omega is Don Callis, because it is possible for a heel to get over without having to be bailed out by his manager. And it got to the point at Double or Nothing where it looked like he was going to win, and Don Callis interferes because we don't have any other ideas. I'll be honest, that was kind of a turnoff to me. It's seeing him wrestle somewhere else for a different title. I thought, honestly, the AAA match was better than anything he's done in AEW this year. And I would say with that match weighted in with everything else, except for the Royal Rumble, that match that he had, that Kevin Owens had with Roman Reigns.
That was very good.
Yep.
I think it ended the wrong way. I thought Kevin Owens should have won that match. But if I take everything together, I honestly have to say I think Kenny Omega is the better wrestler, which kind of makes me glad Quello's not here because I think he'd have burst a blood vessel for 2 people agreeing with that sentiment. But that doesn't mean I dislike Roman Reigns, because honestly, he is what the heel champion should be.
100%.
If this were 1985, I could see Roman Reigns getting ready to wrestle Hulk Hogan at the next WrestleMania.
I have a question.
I keep going back to Hulk Hogan.
But to John's point, who's chasing Roman right now?
And that's the issue. That's the issue, all things considered. And so I tweeted this out that I said, I think Roman Reigns is incredible, but his championship reign hasn't helped a whole lot of people. And I get all the people like, well, what about Jey Uso? And what about Kevin Owens? And what about Cesaro? They all got spots with him. Yes, they got spots with him, but where are they now?
Where are they now?
Yep.
Where are they now?
Cesaro's a damn good example.
Mm-hmm.
Why he should have had the belt before. I mean,
regardless of whether Cesaro won or not. See, and that's the thing. People are misconstruing. People are like, well, because they didn't win, so they're buried. I said, no, it's not because of that. But what happens is if they lose the feud, they should still be elevated and featured to the point where now they're a credible challenger that one day soon they could maybe challenge him again and win. That's the idea of building a good baby face, right?
Perfect example is on our screen. I didn't mean to interrupt you. The Rock right there. I mean, he lost.
He kept losing.
Yeah, yes. and then but he was such a heel, such an asshole, but such a presence that he was wrestling. He won the world title. Vince got behind him. He wrestled Stone Cold next to WrestleMania. That's a perfect example right there.
You could make that argument too for Stone Cold Steve Austin. He begins the Austin 316 at the previous year's King of the Ring. Or no, this is 1998 at the 96 King of the Ring. Then you have at the previous year's WrestleMania that double turn with him and Bret Hart. His momentum never really stops from the King of the Ring. And if nobody's ever seen this before, I'm sorry, but Austin wins this match here in a few minutes, I do believe. And it leads to what is arguably one of the biggest angles in WWF history that involves the baddest man on the planet, arguably one of the greatest wrestlers to ever suit up and put into a ring.
Yes, damn right.
So, Stone Cold Steve Austin.
But that's my point about a championship reign. A championship reign, even if someone is booked as a dominant champion, the people that step in the ring with them should improve up the card, or at least a lot of them should. That's what your goal is with a championship reign. So that way you have credible challengers in the future. And I just think that this Roman Reigns run, he's been so dominant and it's been awesome. He's been great. But these people get in there with him, and this is not his fault. This is all booking. They get in there with him. They have these good matches with him. They're elevated because they're in a great position, but then they don't go anywhere from there.
Well, let me ask this question really quick as we're approaching.
There we go. This is it.
Let's watch this.
See you. Bye.
Oh, that hurts my heart.
I love that Rumble, man. It's a super fun Rumble.
It really is.
And how fitting is it Rock and Austin are the last two?
Mm-hmm. And you know, they didn't touch too long because they knew that that's something we're going to get to down the line.
Yeah. They just kind of teased it.
Mm-hmm.
It's also nice to see that Mick Foley was not only at the start of the match, but that he was part of the Final Four, too.
Yep.
Without Rock and Austin being where they're at the exact same time, are either one of them as big as they are?
That's an excellent question. I personally don't think so. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, John, didn't you just recently do an Up for Debate where you debate who the biggest star between Rock or Austin is? So I highly recommend everyone.
Who's the bigger legacy in pro wrestling?
I highly recommend everybody go check that out. Those Up for Debates are actually some of my favorites because they're to me they're sleepers on ad-free shows because they're new. But I just love the way you guys analyze
this one. Thank you. We just did one. We taped one that's going to drop this coming week about the NWO versus DX, which was really good. And then, and then our next episode is going to be there's a little Top Guy Theater exclusive. Our next episode is going to be Bobby Heenan versus Paul Heyman.
Oh my God,
that'll be good.
Oh God, I'm a Bobby Heenan guy through and through, but dear God.
If there's anyone that comes close to Bobby Heenan, it's Paul Heyman. So
yeah.
So John, I will tell you, I've been working on my master's degree, and this has probably been one of the hardest semesters I've ever had. So I am very much behind on ad-free show stuff. So, but you definitely piqued my attention with that stuff. So
I appreciate it.
Here's
I wish I'd
Michael Cole, for Christ's sakes.
The worst thing to come out of Syracuse, New York, by the way, since Tom Cruise.
No.
Oh, Jesus. So, John, before we let you go, I wanted to ask you just, Kevin Owens and Kyle O'Reilly. Do you see them sticking around? I feel like Kevin has his foot out the door because he wants to go be with his friends.
Do I think AEW needs either of them? No. I don't think AEW needs either of them. Would I be upset if either of them ended up in AEW? No, I would not be. I think Kyle O'Reilly is more likely to leave than Kevin Owens, but I could definitely see both going.
My argument for Kevin staying is because he's got a family, and whether he's in upper mid-card status or main event status, because he bounces between those two so much, the dude's making millions.
But Kevin Owens should be a lot bigger than he is right now.
Oh,
and that's
absolutely.
So,
not to interrupt everyone, but I know we're getting close to the end here, and I do have an announcement to make. So with that being said, I believe I'm going to go ahead and fill you in. Happy New Year! Oh wait, no, too early. I'm too early for that. But we do have something amazing planned for everyone watching on New Year's Day. Yes, the very beginning of the second season of Top Guy Theater will be a live watch-along of WWE's New Year's Day pay-per-view Day 1. And we have got some giveaways, and we're going to have a lot of fun. We would love all of you to participate. And don't forget, next week, Christmas Catastrophe. Actually, less than a week, December 24th, Christmas Eve. Yes, All Ego Ethan Page, Hornswoggle, and the night Vince Russo won the WCW World Title. It is an appointment viewing. You absolutely cannot miss it in just a few short days. Have fun, and I'm sorry that we put you through a Vince Russo match. And that's my take, and you've been filled in.
You know what the best part of your take is this week, Phil? I'm pretty sure that song's copyrighted by somebody, which means we won't be allowed on YouTube. Thank you very much. But it gives me the opportunity to display this again, so I'm perfectly happy with it.
John, one more question before you go. Big Swole. You think Big Swole is going to make a move, or is she done with wrestling?
I don't know. I actually reached out to Big Swole and haven't heard back from her, but I think she I think Big Swole, while maybe she's not necessarily the most top tier in ring talent, she very much has something that people connect with, and she has an it factor that she's fun to watch, right? Like she's very entertaining and great talker. She's got a lot that she could offer to a company. I don't know in what role, but I definitely think that there will be places that would be interested in her. And I find her very entertaining, and I hope that she has an opportunity. Honestly, I'd love to see her and Cedric run on the indies together and do a little package there. And I think it would be a lot of fun because Cedric is someone who just is so underutilized in WWE, and I'd love to see him get his due.
Could you see her being the first female member of the Hurt Business?
No.
You don't think she'd come to WWE?
No.
I think someone like a Big Swole. This again, we go back to AEW and their weak women's division. What they don't have is an NXT, a developmental that brings you up and builds you those skills while you're on the air. Which you have to admit, NXT, especially with I can't say about 2.0 because I don't watch it, but that really elevated a lot of people and taught people skills. Like Sasha Banks wouldn't be Sasha Banks today without NXT and what she learned from there. Somebody like a Big Swole, who obviously probably won't go to WWE, could benefit immensely and elevate their status immensely through a program like NXT, which is what AEW lacks.
Yeah, I think there's an element of truth to that. I mean, they have, developmental that goes on, and they have classes before every taping and everything, and like they are working. I think AEW, when it comes to women's stuff, it's all about investing time, right? And I know, Brandy, you've talked about stuff like this before. Like, it's about investing time into characters, and that's what I really like what this TBS tournament's been doing, because they've been giving time for these matches to grow. And like that Chris Statlander and Ruby Soho match, I thought was really good. And it wasn't just good because the two worked well together. There was story behind it. You knew the character motivations, and that helped elevate the match. So I think that's what AEW needs to do more with the women.
I'm a big Statlander fan. Who do you think is going to win that tournament?
I think it will be Jade Cargill.
Oh, God.
I want Rosa.
We're all Rosa fans.
I think it's one of the two of them. It's one of the two of them. I just don't know which one.
Except for McLanahan, we're all Rosa fans. We actually had her. She was actually our first major guest on this show. And that woman can do anything. We were at Top Guy Weekend. She sang karaoke, and that woman can sing. And she was my first autograph picture I threw up there besides Kenny Omega. I am a huge Rosa Mark, and
she's awesome.
Sky's the limit for that woman.
She's awesome.
So on that note, John, can you just let everyone know where they can find you and what you've got? I mean, we've talked a little bit, but just talk about your shows on ad-free shows, because we want to put you over, and then we'll get out of here.
Well, you can find me at Jon Alba on social media. Lose the H. H's are for losers. We don't like that. Sorry to all of you who have H's in your name, but Henry, Michael. Aside from that, that's where you can find me. And of course, every single week on ad-free shows, I'm dropping a whole bunch of content, one-on-one with Jon Alba, which, let me tell you something, guys. It has been so liberating getting to do long-form human interest interviews with pro wrestlers and people associated with pro wrestling. I like to think that my interviews are a little different than some of the interviews you hear elsewhere, and they focus more on the human element of pro wrestling and the journey. And I think whether you're a fan of someone or know them or don't know them, I think it's better when you don't know who the people are that I interview. I think you can become a fan of them through those interviews. So I really highly encourage people to check out One-on-One. Up for debate, myself and Danny Cage, the head trainer and owner of the world famous Monster Factory. We take two topics and put them head to head each week. It's kind of like Pardon the Interruption a little bit on ESPN. And we have a lot of fun doing that. Some miscellaneous projects, obviously, that I'm involved with, but I have some pretty big stuff that's going to be launching at the start of 2022, which nobody's been clued in on. And I can't tell you just yet what that's going to be, but be on the lookout, because I have a feeling that 2022 is going to be a little extreme, and you're going to see some cool things happen coming out of the Jon Alba camp. So I hope I get to see some of you guys at our ad-free shows live events, and I would love to connect. Or if any of you ever go to a wrestling show that I'm at, please come hit me up. I'd love to hang out and chat with some of you guys.
Absolutely.
And thank you for having me. This was fun.
Of course. Awesome. Thank you so much. On that note, we're going to drop the outro, and this has been Top Guy Theater. Next up, Ethan Page and Swoggle.
14 WrestleManias.
A leg drop, an elbow smash, a body slam.
Are you ready to fight? One. Who will survive?